Steve Riat and I are going to be doing a tech talk about network security for small businesses. And we haven't done any preparation for this, have we, Steve? And we're just kind of going to have a conversation here because I still have some questions about it.
Just remember, if you can't explain it simply, you don't know it well enough.
There we go. That's what we're going to do, a simple explanation today. First of all, let me change the slide. I can do that part. I have a few pictures of firewalls up here that some of you may notice at your business, may not. What specifically is a firewall? I know that it prevents hackers from getting to your network. What else can you tell me about it?
Well, there's a couple things here, Trisha, that you need to pay attention to. Is even some of the most basic home user devices say firewall on them. Mm-hmm. So when we're talking about a firewall in this case, we're talking about a firewall that has deep packet inspection. Now that sounds like a really fancy word, but essentially what it is the firewall takes a look at the information traveling across it. It opens up those packages, looks inside of it, and is looking for bad stuff, essentially, right? If it doesn't have deep packet inspection, it's usually what they call NAT firewall, Network Address Translation. Again, fancy words for it's not really looking at the traffic. It's just hiding you behind kind of a little short wall, if you will.
Okay.
So we don't consider those true firewalls. They'll be great for a home user, but a business, it could be really intensive because there's things that hackers want. And even at home networks now, people are wanting to
all
kind
of
of
your
start
information's there. Yeah.
Exactly. So we're looking for this deep packet inspection that's going through, it's looking at the information, decrypting it, taking a look, saying, hey, do I see anything bad inside that? And then if I do, I'm going to block it, of course.
Okay.
If it's something I know, such as just basic email or maybe the latest files for Excel and Word, even Excel and Word, it will take a look at it and say, make sure that there's nothing nasty inside of that file. Because you've probably seen things where it says it's a PDF.
Right.
And you're like, well, is it or isn't it?
Just to get you to click on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're changing it and getting smarter. The firewall's intelligent enough to know what a PDF actually looks like. And when it opens it and says, hey, that's not really a PDF, it's going to say, nope, rejected.
Okay. And that's the hardware version of a firewall, right? Like what we have on the screen here.
Yes.
There's also software that's considered firewall.
Absolutely. And most computers now have software firewalls. It's built into Windows, it's built into the Mac OSs and iOS devices and those kind of things. And essentially, again, what it's doing is kind of the same feature set, but at the desktop level.
So nothing near what a piece of hardware could do for you.
Exactly. And there's several things that the piece of hardware is doing is, you look at these devices and they look like, a switch or a router or something you see, which is what they are, but it's actually a mini computer. And it's running an operating system that's made and hardened to do this. And so that's really what's going on inside of there is it is a computer. So by doing it at the gateway level, it's freeing up your Windows device or your Mac device to do other things instead of doing all this.
Be responsible for it.
Exactly.
So it doesn't matter if some people will tell me, well, I'm a small business, I don't need this. Nobody's going to come hacking or come after me for this. That doesn't matter, does it? Because I've been told there's people sitting who are hackers, there's computer programs that can hack you. It doesn't matter. What are they looking for?
Well, they're looking for low-hanging fruit. What is the easiest target out there? And that's one of the simplest ways for a hacker to go about really hacking a network, is they're looking for, do you have a basic firewall? Well, you might have passed layer 1 now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got a firewall. Okay, I'm moving on to somebody who doesn't. But then the next question that they may have is this firewall up to date and got the most current standards? If so, okay, maybe I'm going to move on. But then they might start even going further than that. And we'll talk about even some of the newer depths. Okay. But the key fact is it doesn't matter how big or small you are, because in the IP world, it doesn't matter the size of your entity.
They're just looking for your IP address. It doesn't. Okay.
That's exactly it. And so whether you're a big medical institution or just 1 or 2 people working in a business, they don't know that on the online piece. They're just going for the lowest hanging fruit.
Right. Okay. Let's get their next screen up here. So why do people even need a firewall? Because again, people are saying, well, I have some information out there, but it's nothing you couldn't find on the internet already.
Well, a couple of the key things that you see with small businesses, first of all, payroll. So now you're having like W-2 information. You got people's social security numbers and all of those kind of things because you have to have that to pay your employees. So that's kind of number one, is looking at those kind of things, is that you want to protect your employees from being hacked for their personal information. The next thing that you probably have is bank records. So you're probably doing online banking somehow. That's related to either you paying your bills or you're doing credit card transactions, things like that. Maybe you're not even doing financial records, you're doing healthcare records. So you have HIPAA requirements of safety and security of individuals, and that could be it. Or even as far as maybe whatever it is that you make or you sell, you have proprietary information to that. And so if your proprietary information got out on what you're doing with your product, then you've lost your business, essentially.
You've lost what you do. A lot of people also say, but I have antivirus. So we have this up here, the Firewall, which antivirus sits on a desktop. And I have antivirus. Isn't that enough? And I want to tell them no, because the way I've been explained, and I have a story that it kind of matches it on the same level. Antivirus is like when a fly gets in your house and you're running around trying to hit it with a fly swatter to kill it before it gets too annoying or there's too much damage in the house or whatever. But an actual firewall is like closing the screen door before the fly ever gets in.
That's a great story. I love that. I'm going to steal that one.
I got it from Lauren.
Oh, okay.
I have to credit Lauren Von Lintel on that.
No, that's definitely part of it, is you're keeping the bad stuff out of the network at the most basic edge layer for sure. But, even antivirus now is confusing, is that you've had antivirus for many years, but have you ever had a pop-up?
Occasionally, but
Occasionally.
No.
Well, it's not a virus.
No, yeah.
Also, you've seen things like crypto. Crypto lockers, kind of like there's 1,000 other cryptos out there. But essentially what's happening is it's encrypting your data so that you can't get to it, and then they're holding you ransom.
Right.
It's not a virus. It's malware.
Okay.
And what's the difference between a virus and malware? It's really confusing anymore. So you're looking at all this different type of traffic. Because here's the thing. Virus is typically doing stuff without your permission. Malware can do stuff, and you said, sure, go ahead, because you thought you were installing Adobe Acrobat, and finds out it had a little extra special surprise for you at the end. And so that's where the malware comes in, is that you allowed it to do something, and now you've got pop-ups and all this other stuff going on. Yeah. And then it's doing interfering. So the toolbars, you might have got extra toolbars. That's another version. There's just different ways for that to get into your network.
Get into it. Mm-hmm. And then let's face it, you were talking about all of your information, like payroll and stuff. This is employee information. If you want to risk your own information and not have a firewall, but when you bring somebody else's information into it that you're risking that hackers can come in and steal, what kind of repercussions can you have as a business? It's probably something where it could put you out of business if it becomes legal.
Right, and I would suggest that your online reputation is now the important part. Online, reputation is becoming the future currency, if you will. So one of the things I always told the story of is I had a friend that wanted to get an Uber, and he had a little incident in one night of drinking. So his online Uber reputation was poor. He couldn't get a ride because nobody was willing to put up with somebody that would treat him that way in their car, right? And so now it's that online currency, if you will, is your reputation, because, are you a good, reputable dealer? Well, if you have allowed other people into your network and allowed bad things to happen, I may not want to do business with you because of those kind of things. We've seen some of that happen with, Target's obviously been part of it, Home Depot and some of the things, and they've done all these things to cover the repercussions of a hack. They're, providing all those customers that got hacked, LifeLock and those kind of services. But realistically, I'd rather do business with somebody that didn't have that kind of thing. Right. One of the more recent things I saw at Home Depot now is you can pay with PayPal. Well, that protects you just one more layer. And so you can see that people are becoming more cognizant of that online reputation, and you don't want to do business with somebody that has a bad reputation.
Exactly. I've heard a lot about OpenDNS. I don't know a lot about it, but I know it's also part of the firewall. It's just another level of security inside their firewall that Nex-Tech actually sets up for people when they get our firewalls.
Yeah, well, first of all, if you look at it, you can still find it as OpenDNS. It's also known as Cisco Umbrella. Cisco has purchased them here recently. And so they've got a couple of different names out there. And let me also suggest, this is something you can use at home. I use this at home constantly. It's free for home users for some most basic protection. But let's talk about the DNA inside of what this really is. So DNS is Domain Name Services. So when you type in google.com, essentially it goes out there and finds what server is Google on, and it's this address on the IP address that it knows to go out there. You don't know what Google's IP address is.
I would never
but this
remember.
service helps you find it, essentially. Well, what happens is behind the scenes in OpenDNS is they have found that there's bad sites out there. Sites that have malware on them, those kind of things, and they'll block it. So you can block countries. So like probably don't do a lot of business with China in particular for us, or Iran, those kind of things. So we could block entire countries of servers so that they just don't even have access to the network, which is some good things. Now look, there's legitimate reasons you may be doing business with China, so you can allow an IP address or just allow the entire country. So there's some of those things. So remember the malware and the pop-ups and all that stuff? We're blocking that at the edge. But there's some advantages even further. Reason I do it home. In particular, I want to block the porn, the violence. I want to block online dating sites, like anything that my kids probably don't need access. And OpenDNS has made it really easy, is that I can just select a moderate level of protection, and it generally blocks a whole bunch of things. So a couple questions with that. How do I know it's working, right? I mean, that's one of the questions. So if you go to Facebook, you got the ads running on the side a lot. Sometimes we'll see one that says blocked by OpenDNS. Well, there was something in that ad that was bad.
So it doesn't block all of your ads?
No.
I came from marketing. I want the ads to show up.
No, it's blocking, like, for instance, every once in a while I see dating sites that pop up or something. It would block that kind of ad. So, those kind of things. Or if it was a malicious site that had a legitimate ad, that happens. And so it would block that kind of information from coming into the network. It's very easy. So where does this reside is ultimately the question. And it's really easy to set up, especially on a corporate network. The DNS location servers are in the firewall. And so we change them to OpenDNS's, domain name servers. And then when it routes to it, it recognizes that's our network. Therefore, it applies our settings and blocks the sites that we've deemed bad. We could even block social media. Maybe
more
we don't,
content.
Maybe I want to block everything but online banking. Maybe I need to have online. I could block everything but that. So you could do a lot of things, but very easy to set up. There's a very small monthly charge embedded. But what we found is, to truly protect yourself from online threats, there needs to be this tiered layer of protection. So the firewall provides one of them. OpenDNS is going to provide... In
the firewall, which you can have when you get the firewall, it's part of it. Now the next set of things that we look at is, let's just say that you travel a lot, Trisha. So when you take your laptop out on the road, how do I protect it? There's a small client we can install with OpenDNS that then would route that traffic the same way, just from your laptop. But we would only set it up if you're mobile. If you leave your laptop on the corporate network all the time, then I don't have to worry about it.
Right, you don't have to worry about it. But we have both options within that.
All right, this was my next thing. We talked a little bit about paying at Home Depot, you said, takes PayPal now? Well, obviously, 99.9% businesses take electronic payments now, and it is super easy. You just run your card, even tap your phone if you have the NFC technology on it. Apple Pay or Apple Wallet, everything is so electronic. And I mean, in some places I've even seen who don't want to take cash for like getting robbed. They just don't have cash at the location anymore. And the new chip readers, you probably got a new debit or credit card that goes in there. On the bottom, that the new chip readers are up to date and everything. But the one thing is, people who or businesses who take these still need a firewall to protect your card. The credit card company, the point of sale system, all of that type of thing, put as many protections on it, but it's still not the same as a firewall. So if you're going to a business, who takes electronic payments but doesn't have a firewall, all of your debit and credit card information is out there, connected to the web, the World Wide Web, can be hacked.
A couple things to think about. So the standards that we follow are PCI compliance standards. So there's a couple things you might know. If you have one of these credit card reading machines like this, you might get a lower rate if you're PCI compliant. Most of the companies who provide these require you to have a PCI scan. And so we would set your network up in a way that allows you to pass that scan and get lower rates on your interest and your fees related to these machines. So it's not just all cost. There might be cost savings here.
Huh, I never thought of that.
To help
I never
you
even
do
knew
that.
that.
Yeah, that's definitely a valid help here. Now, some of the things that we see is when you put these devices, this is just another device on your network.
Right.
One of the things we're looking to do is that firewall allows us to segment the traffic so it doesn't go the same network as what your computer traffic does, so they don't touch each other.
Okay.
And that way, when you're surfing the web or whatever, if there was something that happened on that computer, it got compromised.
Couldn't get over to your other network.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we're protecting that. And, you know, one of the great things that we have here is we have to follow the same rules. So we're really just enforcing the same rules we have on our own network and helping our customers do the same thing. But it's really best practices anyway, and we want to help people secure their information, secure those credit cards, make sure that nothing happens. And, you know, part of this that we're adding to this value is the part between the ears, right? I don't know if you've seen some of the tele machines that are out there, the ATMs, where they put the skimmers on there, or the gas
To get your magnetic information off your
you
card.
know, we want to educate our customers too to look for those kind of devices. If it doesn't look quite right, don't use it.
Or go ask. The attendant surely is there.
Yeah, or, you know, don't feel too bad about trying to peel that off. You know, it shouldn't come off
I've gone
easily.
to many gas stations and wiggled on it before just to make sure that the outside, you know, gas station where anybody can get up to it at 2 a.m. and when no one's there.
And those machines have shown up in western Kansas,
I'm
specifically along I-70, frequently. And I mean in towns that you wouldn't think it would happen. It's absolutely happening.
Probably the best spots. No, it's small town living. It's everybody trusts everything.
Well, and if you're on I-70, you could think of all those credit cards you could capture getting gas.
Oh,
All day long.
the way.
So we want to do not only the physical security, but we want to help with people thinking about some of that stuff, because it's not just about protecting that network information, it's about protecting the physical information too.
Okay. I just threw a few other things up here that I knew were also part of the firewall. General content filtering, I think you touched a little bit on when we talked about getting in and blocking Facebook or blocking whatever. That comes with a firewall and just needs to be set up correctly. A certain level of it.
Yep.
It's not super granular.
Again,
but
kind of the open DNS conversation. Yeah.
same thing. And then I also put on a VPN or a virtual private network. So, you know, like I work from home once in a while. I can automatically take my laptop, get into the Nex-Tech VPN, virtual private network, and have access to everything here that I do at home.
Right. And, you know, your home network's probably relatively set up pretty good, and you're not too worried about anybody else having control because you set it up, you know who's on it.
Right.
You're brilliant. The ones that worry me are the motels, those kind of things, because you don't know where your information's going through, or an airport.
Or who's next to you trying to break into it.
Absolutely. So when you use VPNs, essentially what it's doing is it's created an encrypted tunnel of data that goes back to your corporate network and then goes out to the internet. And I know that seems weird, but then what happens is you're getting all this protection of that encryption that the bad guys can't see what's happening inside of that tunnel.
Okay.
So it's protecting you just one more layer. And that way, as you're having some of these networks that you hope are legit, you eliminate some of those concerns, because now we're tunneling through them and getting back to the internet at our corporate infrastructure.
And the last thing I listed was all the antis, the anti-spam, antivirus, anti-spyware at the gateway level, which is the firewall,
Right.
versus on the desktop. So you're protecting yourself before it even gets to your internet.
Yeah, to your fly story,
Right.
The gateway is going to keep at least a certain layer of things out, and we don't want our desktop spending all their horsepower trying to mitigate a fly in the house. If we can just keep it out in the first place, it's much better.
Easier.
A couple things to add here that I thought was interesting that we're seeing happen. So SSL encryption, you're seeing that. That's a little padlock on the bottom, corner of your browser, and so you have to pay attention to SSL. And the reason is about 60% of the traffic on the internet is going that way. So now our firewalls have to decrypt that encrypted traffic, which means they're talking to our desktops and getting the codes to that to make sure that the traffic's legitimate if it's encrypted. So knowing that 60% of the traffic's encrypted, we want to make sure it's legit. So that's one of the things that we're seeing, is making sure that we're looking at all traffic going across firewalls. Look, most of the firewalls have that. Now the issue is, did somebody set it up right to do that traffic? That's my point. Does it really cost you anything more? Not really.
No.
Sometimes it's a feature, sometimes it's not. But
That's
if it's
when you
not,
get a certified Nex-Tech technician
exactly.
to come in and do it.
Yeah, I mean, and just making sure that they know what they're doing to set this up right, because
Right.
just putting it there doesn't really make this
Right.
happen.
You have to program it and
Yes,
all of that.
absolutely. The next thing that we have is the sandboxing, or I apologize, I can't think of the other name they have for it, but sandboxing in general is a term for firewalls. And what that does is, remember we told it it's looking at those packets inside
That's
of it?
coming in, yeah.
Well, let's just say that the firewall opens this package and it goes, I have no idea what this is. I've never seen this, whatever this package is. Now what do I do with it? In the past, it used to just send it through and say, I hope that's okay. Or it would block it, and maybe it was legitimate, something you were expecting. Now your business is disrupted. Sandboxing, what that essentially does is a firewall sends it out to the cloud. It takes that package, opens it up, takes a look at it. It executes whatever the file is that's in there and looks for behavior. If nothing bad happens, off it goes. We're good to go.
Thumbs up.
And thumbs up. If something bad happens, it's going to write a signature that says, first of all the firewalls that we service, now you know about this. This is bad. So next time it opens, hey, that's bad. I'm going to throw it away.
Okay.
But
They learn.
we call that zero-day threat detection. So
Okay.
there's no definition for it yet because it's brand new. But the firewall identified it, opened it, looked at it, and said, oop, nasty. But it does it in the cloud, not on the firewall.
Right.
So the key factor there is that your network's not at threat. It's that cloud that was up there that had to deal with all that threat mitigation. So that was kind of the other part of that.
Okay. Well, I kind of put up a little symbol here that we've kind of started doing when our customers have our network security protection. You might see this on a symbol of a door, a window, a counter, wherever you go throughout Nex-Tech territory. Because this business does care enough about your personal information, they're doing everything in their power to protect your information. So that's one thing I wanted to bring up when you talk again about payments or whatnot. Any business you go to try to do commerce with, you may ask, and it doesn't have to be Nex-Tech, but what I'm saying is you may take responsibility also and ask whoever you're using a debit card reader or whatnot, hey, do you have a firewall? How do you protect my information? And just to find out. But this is, one of the things that Nex-Tech does to try to help you know that, that business is protecting your information and you should feel secure.
And one of the services we want to be clear about, Trisha, is it's not necessarily about us selling you something. Look, protecting you on the internet's important to us because we are the internet provider, and the more bad guys we keep out of that good stuff, the better we all are. So if you see one of us, and you have questions, ask us. We have tools out there that we can show you to help protect you against the most current threats, what we're seeing out there with our customer base, and it is super scary on how many threats are happening right now.
Right.
And what's actually being protected. And it's growing, in a hockey stick, right? It's just going crazy at the amount of threats that are out there. So get with one of us. Lauren that you mentioned earlier is kind of a specialist out there. He can help you understand some of the most current threats. And we'd love to spend some time just doing some basic education, the things you should be looking for.
That's exactly what we do in a security assessment, the education.
Yeah.
Maybe you're already all set up and good to go and, give you the thumbs up. We can come out and make sure that everything's working properly. So we have the 800 number up there if you wanted to call and visit with anybody about that, or if you have any questions for us. I think we're good to go then. Kristen, give us a no-go, no questions right now, but again, give us a call. Ask for either Steve or I or Lauren or any one of the sales reps could actually help you with that. So give us a call and we'd love to help you out. Thank you.